This is Julie Currin. First of all, the issues that I was looking into was how the law firm I work for and the legal system is responding to same-sex marriages that are now going through divorces. I used a narrative approach with my interviews, along with several tools. The tools included screening for alcohol use, PTSD, and suicide risk. So I was very fortunate to have some diverse clients come in. I was hoping to have 2 females and 2 males. It was my hope that I would identify whether or not there were flaws either in my firm's approach or if the legal system was not responding to these clients the same way as straight-sex couples. But it was also important to me to see if any of the clients had problems that could benefit from referrals to other resources in the community. I felt like, based on my research into the tools, that none of the tools were particularly developed or geared towards the problems that same-sex couples might have. And as part of my research to understand those problems, I did some what I call immersions. I spent some time immersing myself in a Netflix series called Queer Eye, where 5 fabulous gay men work with one person a week to improve that person's self-esteem, grooming, fashion, and furnishings. And I fell in love with the series. I found it very inspiring. I also read a book by Jacob Tobias called Sissy, which was about growing up gender binary, or as he calls it, gender transcendent. I also did a series during the LGBTQ plus Visibility Week on the seminal cases that preserve rights for this population in the United States and the UK. Part of my initial information gathering, we have a client intake document, and I was able to obtain consent from the clients to access that document, which gave quite a bit of background information. But it didn't really delve into their childhoods, whether or not they experienced any trauma when they were younger, their coming out narrative, how they feel about society's reactions to same-sex marriages, and how they felt about our law firm and how their divorce was proceeding in the legal system. And my purpose was to make sure that, first of all, they felt accepted and not judged when they came to us for services, and second, to find out if there was a need for advocacy in the legal world about changes in the law to address any issues that might be particular to gay, transgender, or non-binary clients. And one of the anecdotal things I would say was that when I was first filing a same-sex divorce, it was kind of hard to know what language to use because we're so used to in our pleadings using husband and wife. And that's just not appropriate when you're dealing with the same-sex couple because you're not sure if they self-identify in those particular definitions. You know, it may be that they feel like it's wife and wife or husband and husband, or maybe they just want to call them partners or spouses. So I found that there was some disconnect, at least in initially pleading in complaints for divorce, about what the courts would accept in those documents. And I wondered if clients were being turned off to the legal system because of these difficulties, and also whether the courts were handling these cases differently. It was very important to me to have very connected interview. I felt like it needed to be person to person so that I could see the client's reactions. And also, I always feel like when you question somebody, sometimes the questions that are follow-up to what you're discussing bring out more information than the initial interview questions you may have designed. I identified with all of my clients during these interviews their family background, their educational level, and whether or not they have had previous contact with the mental health, any mental health issues, if they had previously had any counseling. And I also asked about if they were active in gay advocacy. It was very interesting, even though ultimately my subject size was limited, to find how extremely diverse and different clients who all self-identified as outside of, the traditional accepted pattern of marriages felt about their upbringing, about their marriages, and about how the legal system responded to them. My first client was a white male. My second client was a black male, and my third client was a white female. My discovery was that there was only one thing that tied the three clients together, and that was the fact that they didn't identify as heterosexual, or what we call cisgender. And everything else in their backgrounds, in how they grew up, in how they were reacting to their presentation were different. And I think that's what we're going to find in most of our individual counseling clients, that you just can never put everyone together into one bubble. It's very important to understand that every person brings their own particular history and their own particular trauma, their own particular story to the table, and that helping anybody requires that we understand and open ourselves to learning about the person. And so I took the time to do that with these clients and was touched by, let's just say the first client, for instance. After 30 minutes of talking about his growing up, what he called this, excuse my French, functional family, that he still was like this very easygoing guy that let a lot of things slide. And it wasn't until I asked a very non-directed, what I call catch-all question at the end of about 30 minutes about, was there anything that I didn't ask that he felt might be important to my study, or that he felt he wanted to share with me? And it was only then that he told me a story about being molested as a child, and that he felt that that was impactful to his choice to be a homosexual. My second client shared information that was totally new to me about growing up in Jamaica and feeling that childhood abuse was normalized in that culture, and that he had been brutalized by his father in particular, who tried to beat out of him his interest in boys. And it brought me to tears, and really reacting with a sensitive heart to his disclosures brought us together in a way that allowed him to share quite a bit about the particulars in his life, including several suicide attempts, and what he felt was prevalent overt discrimination that had increased in the current culture and under the current president. And he also is married to someone who was born in Senegal who's a Muslim and has not come out to his family. And at the end of the interview, when he gave me a hug, he asked if I would be interested in interviewing his husband. So that was, I felt, a very fruitful connection. The first two men did not feel that the legal system was in any way or shape or form treating them differently than it would a straight-sex couple. It was only until I interviewed a woman, a white female who considers herself bisexual. And although she's married to a woman now, she had previously been engaged to a man, and she felt like the legal system did not treat her the same. She felt like the judge in a protective order case did not feel like woman-on-woman aggression was the same as male-on-female aggression in a way that would qualify under Virginia law for a protective order. She also felt like the attorney handling her case was not as aggressive in pursuing and finalizing her divorce as she felt he would have been if it had been a two-sex traditional marriage that was being handled. She didn't feel like he was doing the same paperwork, was not pushing as hard. So it was very interesting, and I was really sorry that in the time that I had available to do this study and get this paper in, I wasn't able to get my fourth female into the data, and I hope to do that in the near future and update my paper, which I hope to publish. But I am wondering if, because male homosexuals have been more active in pursuing their rights, if the system maybe is responding like a male-female marriage and a male-male marriage are equivalent now, and only seeing some bias against lesbian marriages. So I'm hoping to look into that in the future. I'm not sure that I can make too many conclusions because my data set is very limited, but it is certainly a start at understanding the diversity, the different upbringings, the different experiences of the LGBTQ plus community. And I will recall that one of my daughter's friends has transitioned and is non-binary and refers to herself in the pronouns they. And I found that kind of difficult because I'm a person who deals with language, but I've learned that it's important that if that's how somebody self-identifies, that we should be respectful and use the same type of language that they want to be addressed by, that doing anything less is like a mini trauma, a microaggression. And so I've learned to use that with this friend of my daughter's. And I think I have to thank God that I have children who are older and who have helped to teach me to be better about understanding these different communities and being willing to go outside my comfort zone and engage with clients in a way that is empathetic, open to learning and understanding. I'm hoping that this small beginning will expand in the future to include as many people that come into our law firm, and that we continue to be the type of profession and people who treat people equal and who try to pursue justice equally for anyone who engages our services. And I hope that everyone who has the chance to hear what I have to say maybe gains a little inspiration to spend some time doing a little bit of immersion therapy and more to understand and engage with people who are different than themselves. I think it's important if we're going to go into counseling that we have open hearts and open minds, and that we take what we learn and do what we can to change the systems so that everyone has equal opportunities in the United States. So this is Julie Currin, and I'm really glad to have had this opportunity to share with you. God bless everyone. Stay safe, and good night.